take a breath together. So speaking of that divine mind, it's interesting the timing of things. Because as we explored living everyday wonder this morning, this month is about play. And all kinds of stuff broke loose at the beginning of the month that said, I don't want to play. And today's topic is a spoonful of sugar, a spoonful of humor is the medicine. Yes, I am conditioned by movies and TV. Mary Poppins is singing. And I don't know about you, but it's sometimes a little challenging to even imagine being humorous when so much that's happening just ain't funny. And interestingly enough, the root definition of humor has nothing to do. The English major over here is shaking his head. He gets it. Has nothing to do with funny. It has to do with bodily fluids. Blood, bile, and lymph, and the balance of those. That if we are in good humor, our physical being is in a good balance physiologically. And I was like, they're not going to want to hear about that. But what I can tell you is my own experience. I laugh a lot, and I have the vital signs of a teenager, to the point where my poor doctor is oftentimes confused. My doctor will take my vitals and pause and look quizzically at me and take them again. And now we have this routine down where she will do that. I will look at her and go, don't be a hater. Because they're better than hers, and she's in better shape from the outside than I am. But apparently I'm in better shape on the inside than she is. Right. So to talk about humor this morning, I thought I would start with Hafiz. And I have to pull that up on my phone because that's where Hafiz is living at the moment. Because technology just helps. Hafiz said this: I sometimes forget that I was created for joy. My mind is too busy. My heart is too heavy for me to remember that I have been called to dance the sacred dance of life. I was created to smile, to love, to be lifted up, and to lift others up. Oh, sacred one, untangle my feet from all that ensnares. Free my soul, that we might dance, and that our dancing might be contagious. Maybe the reason our hearts are breaking open right now, as we witness the pain and suffering of others, is because some part of us knows we were designed to be loved and experience joy and beauty. Maybe. We forget that joy is an inside job. In the Science of Mind glossary, joy, the emotion excited by the expectancy of good, gladness, delight, exultation. And did you catch that? It's not by the experience of good. It's not by the creation of good. It's by the expectancy of good. Joy is our natural state. Joy is our natural state. And if we really understand, it's interesting that Deborah lost her bookmarker and it landed on faith because that's quite perfect for this. When we really understand and have faith, we have an expectancy of good. We have an unflinching, uncompromising, I know it because I know it because I know it. It is unshakable. Good is the nature of life. No matter what the appearance is, back of it is good. And sometimes garbage has to get out of the way for us to find it, for us to be it. It's just that simple. And can we learn how to experience joy, true joy, to be expectancy? And I'll tell you, in Science of Mind, when I hear the word expectancy, it's easy to get it confused with expectation. It's not the same. Right? So I invite you to hear expectancy as expect and see. Expect good and then see it. Because when we see it, we'll be it. But you have to see it before it shows up. When we do see what we don't see, that whole little mind twist, right? We have to know, we have to have faith that it already exists. There is nothing outside of you that is coming to save you. You already are everything you need to be. You cannot be more powerful than you are. You cannot be more magnificent than you were born. You cannot have more God delivered to you than was born in you. It's just not possible. You already are that. And so we learn to laugh at ourselves. And so I'll tell you a few occasions where in my life, if you were videotaping it, it might not have been so funny, but really it was hysterical. Back in North Carolina, my son and I decided we were going to have some chickens. And so in the wintertime, actually spring, but it still was winter there, we put the chicken coop, little one, for the pullets, inside, actually they weren't even pullets yet, but for the little fuzzy chicks on the kitchen table in the trailer we lived in. And it was really cool because they were right there and it was just me and him, so we didn't have to navigate anybody else caring that the kitchen was literally full of chickens and they weren't in the refrigerator. And so they grew up in that little cage and everything was great. And then came the time to move them out of the cage into their pen outside. And we very carefully moved them out one at a time. And we were like, wow, that worked. Everything was really cool. And so then the last step of the process was to move that little temporary coop off the kitchen table and outside. And as we reached for it, one end of the table that happened to be the end of the table near the end of the trailer just collapsed. And the chicken coop went sailing right out the window. Right? That's hysterical. And we both lost it. And then we had a moment of, how are we going to fix that window? Then it wasn't so funny for a minute. But then, God love him. I influenced him to some level. He said, well, it's outside. That's where we wanted it. He ain't wrong. And we just had to laugh. We got to laugh. Now, eventually the window got fixed and all that. But in the moment, we can get upset and rail and blame one another. We can do all kinds of things other than, well, it's outside. We're at choice. But we become more empowered to choose when we become willing to actually change the lens we look through. Right? If my mental mindset is habitually critical, it's hard to see the humor in anything. And I want to caution us because so much of humor can be caustic. When I'm talking about humor, I am not talking about laughing at someone else or at someone else's expense. Now, there is a viable place for what's called gallows humor. If you've ever worked in the medical field or in emergency medicine or in law enforcement, okay, there's a place for gallows humor. It's not with the victims of crime. They're not going to find it funny, right? And it's a stress reliever. So there's a place for that kind of humor, but know your audience. Know your audience. And be kind in your humor. Be kind. I laughed this morning when I got here and noticed that, oops, I didn't change the time on the clock up there. And I thought, well, this is about humor, so I could just channel my Baptist and Pentecostal roots and keep them here for 2 hours because the clock says it's only 5 minutes to 10. Buckle up. I won't do that. But I thought about it. In closing, I want to share this. To me, it is a delightfully tender and yet humorous conversation between a human being and God. And you'll be able to tell which voice is what. Hey, God. Hello. I'm falling apart. Can you put me back together? I would rather not. Why? Because you aren't a puzzle. What about all the pieces of my life that are falling down onto the ground? Let them stay there a while. They fell off for a reason. Take some time and decide if you really need any of those pieces back. You don't understand. I'm breaking down. No, you don't understand. You are breaking through. What you are feeling are just growing pains. You are shedding the things and the people in your life that are holding you back. You aren't falling apart. You are falling into place. Relax. Take some deep breaths and allow those things you don't need anymore to fall off of you. Quit holding on to the pieces that don't fit you anymore. Let them fall off. Let them go. Once I start doing that, what will be left of me? Only the very best pieces of you. I'm scared of changing. I keep telling you, you are not changing, you are becoming. Becoming who? Becoming who I created you to be. A person of light and love and charity and hope and courage and joy and mercy and grace and compassion. I made you for more than the shadow pieces you have decided to adorn yourself with and that you cling to with such greed and fear. Let those things fall off of you. I love you. Don't change. Become. Become. Become who I made you to be. I'm going to keep telling you this until you remember it. There goes another piece. Yep. Let it be. So, I'm not broken? Of course not. But you are breaking like the dawn. It's a new day. become. Let's take this into prayer. And so I know that all that the divine is, the joy, the peace, the perfection, the power, the infinite intelligence, abundance, light, love, all that it is, I am. And what is true of me is true of all. Beyond any appearance, the perfection of creation lies waiting to become what it was created to be. And so I know this is true of every living, breathing element of creation. I know that even as I speak, it is true of every citizen and governing official in the country of Russia. I know that it is true of every citizen and leader in the sovereign nation of Ukraine. I know that peace that truly passes an understanding of what is happening, is still absolutely present, waiting to become what it was birthed in each to become. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming that any veil of fear and greed is moving out of the way to reveal the infinite intelligence, the oneness, and experiential empowerment of truth, of connection, of beingness. And as that reveals itself, war stops, because war cannot be aligned with truth. Destruction never aligned with truth. I speak that same word for every political divide in this United States of America. That there is an awakening that we are so not different than what is happening. That our own history founded in the same behavior rests for healing within us. And that the same truth is revealed within every political faction, in every belief system, bridging every divide until an expression, an experience of oneness is all that is present. I see it. I believe it. Beyond the craziness of humanity, I believe it. Because I sense it, I experience it at the very core of my being. And so I say yes, yes, use me, yes. And I celebrate however that shows up. I celebrate whatever the demand is. I celebrate my capacity, my privilege to say yes. And I invite you to join me, if it is alive in you, to stand in love, for love, as love, to stand in peace, as peace, for peace, to be the activity and center, consciously, intentionally, as peace, to join me as we say together, and so it is.